What? My turn now?
Yep.
Okay. 611, Series 6, Episode 11. Sarkomand. PGTTCM is brought to you by BunnySlippers.com and FoundItemClothing.com. Look cool and keep warm this fall. Strap some Cthulhu slippers to your feet and wear a cool shirt from your favorite cult films. BunnySlippers.com and FoundItemClothing.com.
Greetings, listeners. It is I, DB Spitzer, here to talk to you once again about the Cthulhu mythos, its books, its monsters, its unfortunate human casualties, its timeline in general, and even the tangential bits like the dreamlands and things of a weird nature that are Lovecraft leading. Once more we head into those dark woods. Once again we walk down the lightless stone staircase in the middle of nowhere.
It's November.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about Sarkomand, that ancient city.
Well, what is crazy to me is to think that, so Sarkomand was built by the Men of Leng, and what's crazy to me is to think about is that they built this ancient city. It's giant and beautiful and, quote, well built. And it's just this amazing place, right? And so the Men of Leng must have been at least somewhat intelligent and hardworking. How did they get enslaved by a race called moonbeasts?
I don't know. I don't know.
Wouldn't the moonbeasts have a more complicated name, I don't know, Thethopians or something? It's just they wouldn't call themselves beasts. And if they were so clever as to enslave an entire race that built Sarkomand, then perhaps they have a name for themselves?
I don't know, man. I just work here. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. So if anyone has any answers for that, just email us at pgttcm@gmail.com. But yeah, no, we're going to be talking about Sarkomand, and not so much about Sarkomand, but who built Sarkomand, the Plateau of Leng, a little bit more, which we covered a bit back, but yeah.
Did we cover the Plateau of Leng?
Well, you weren't here.
Obviously.
But
Back
we as
in
in the
day.
podcast. So yeah. And let's see, what else? We're going to have a book review. Yeah. And then also, Zac A. Fugeson's going to talk about the Cthulhu mythos, or beyond the Cthulhu mythos. He's going to be talking about some Ramsey Campbell and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
He has got a rant.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Also, his poetry is amazing.
Not poetry so much, but yeah, no, I guess.
Poetry, novels.
Yeah.
Sort of anarchistic.
Yeah. It's fun stuff.
Writing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what have you been watching?
Oh, man.
Sci-fi, horror, fantasy.
Well, a lot of YouTube videos about making tiny houses. I found this great idea for a net the other day. But I finished watching Stranger Things recently.
Cool.
And been enjoying more Steven Universe, although they're between seasons right now, and I just can't wait for the next season.
Yeah.
But also, what's really been interesting for me to talk about recently is Westworld.
Yeah, Westworld.
Which is old, but Daniel DB just finished it.
Yeah, no, I totally watched Westworld. There was elements about the, I don't know, robots, synths, what do you want to call them?
Robots.
Yeah.
Androids.
Yeah.
Were they hosts? That's what they call them in the show.
They called them hosts. But to me, I kept thinking of them as replicants from Blade Runner or synths from Fallout 4. And the generation process of the hosts and the synths is almost exactly the same. If you go on YouTube, I'm sure someone's made a video about this.
YouTube, you can find everything there.
I remember watching the old movie with Yul Brynner and whatnot, and it's a good movie.
Geek. Nerd.
Anyway, Stranger Things. What did you think about Stranger Things?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked it. And it was beautifully foreshadowed at the end of Stranger Things 1, which was great.
Yeah.
And Winona Ryder just continues to be amazing.
Yeah, what?
The kids are great. And then they did a Beyond Stranger Things little mini-series at the end of the show you can watch about the making of the show, where they interview the creators, one of the main directors, and several of the actors in sequence. And, man, hearing them talk about, like, working with the children made me realize that, of course, those were kid actors. I mean, like, they're obviously children, but the acting is so seamless. It feels so real. It's very iconic. Like, it was well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. From what I understand, the secret of working with children is editing.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, that's the secret to taking good photographs of children, for sure. I mean, it wasn't until... I don't know how parents used to take good photos of their children before digital photos, because, like, you know what, you're going to spend a whole roll of film watching a toddler, like, maybe put something cutely in their mouth. You know, or, like, smile up at you while they're tripping. Yeah. Like, it's just, you know, digital is much better. Plus, you can frame it as you take it. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. No, but with film, there was kind of a spirit of what was going on.
Yeah.
If you caught the photo of a toddler with a thing in their mouth cutely, that was a very special moment, as opposed to the digital era where you just, like, take film, don't take film, but you take images constantly.
I mean, what's arguable, but I mean, the way that old photographers used to do it is they just used, like, 18 rolls for a wedding.
Yep.
You know, or 20 or something. And just put more and more, you know, like, film in the camera. And also, I don't know very many parents that have to spend a lot of time going, like, okay, Billy, look at the camera. No, look at the camera. Okay, look at the camera. Hey, Billy, look at the No, they don't do that anymore. They just walk around and frame it so that the kid is looking at the camera.
Yeah.
You don't have to, like, it's just a whole different... Plus, houses are prettier with better pictures.
Yeah.
Although I'm a terrible mother. I have not printed any pictures of my kids.
Okay. So, what did you think about the Lovecraftian elements of Stranger Things?
Oh, you mean like the giant monster and the, if you will, the Upside Down, which is a lot like the Shadowlands?
Yeah.
It was pretty scary. There's this, spoiler alert, there's a scene at the end where Elle is down in this shaft closing up the rift in space that she's created, and the giant monster is, like, looking at her while she's doing it, and, like, they managed to capture the feeling of that giant and probably ancient, you get the feeling, like, regard on her, and she's this tiny girl that possesses great power, but still, like, you know, she's a tiny person, and this is giant, like, world expanding creature. It's just it's really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
What did you think?
Tremendous. I really loved the Lovecraftian elements, the otherness there that existed, the upside down.
Well, and then there was also, like, the whole themes of, like, infection and rot from the inside that Will goes through.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Good show. Decay, exactly. Yeah. Decay of the mind, decay of the self.
Certainly.
Enslavement. Sort of an erosion of will.
More ways than one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Jesus.
Yeah, there's a reason the character's named Will.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Oh, and then of course is the one-off episode with 11's sister 8.
Oh, yeah, episode 7. What were your feelings on that?
Well, I thought it was an interesting character arc for 11. I felt like she needed it. You know, she's definitely feeling like she needed to get something. Like, hiding for a year was not something she would be good at.
Yeah.
You know, she's not... Like, she's can do self-protection, but she's actually a very brave person. And so hiding for a year was just not gonna...
No.
Set her up for success. And so, you know, she loses her steady support, and she needs to go out and do stuff. And
Yeah.
I feel like that, like, motivation of, like, seeing her sister, going to her mother's and seeing about this, and, like, that was, I think that motivation was a good one for her to get out of life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's normal, and sort of, like, do some character growth.
Yeah.
I also felt like the bitter quest of her sister was... I like the design of the show a lot. I really like the, like, punk rock 80s elements of it a lot. I don't know. What do you think?
I felt like it was a backdoor pilot.
Oh, that makes sense.
I felt like it to me. It felt like a comic book analogy would be like you're reading the X-Men, but you have to read issue 1 of New Mutants, and you're like, I don't care about these punks. Get back to this story. This is boring. But it could be its own interesting series. Anything else that you've been watching?
Steven Universe.
Steven Universe.
Oh,
Okay.
man, that's good. But, I mean, how can you cover such an amazing show?
No, it's a pretty epic show. And with a, I don't know, a...
Whimsical?
Well, no, I was going to say, like, the gems are like this...
Oh, yeah.
This galactic spanning, like, universe spanning...
What did Peridot
spacefaring
call them?
Race.
What did Peridot call them in the episode we just saw last night?
I don't know.
A colonizing spacefaring race?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Their bodies adapt to any planetoid they happen to be on?
Yeah, no. And
that was awesome.
Like, that's very... Like, that's a scary thought. Like, in real life, like,
there's this
having
episode,
gems coming to your planet and, like, trying to terraform it.
I mean, what if Rose Quartz wasn't here?
Yeah.
In the episode where Steven has everybody evacuate from Beach City, his dad and he are talking, and his dad says something along the lines of, the gems should be telling you this, they just don't want you to think of them that way. And Steven says, what way? And he says, as aliens from outer space that tried to invade our planet.
Yeah.
And it's like they're this superhero gang, but mostly the gems don't solve human problems at all. Mostly the gems solve or help problems that gems cause. Like, they defeat these gem monsters that are corrupted gems, and they take care of technology that the gems installed in the world, and that's it. You know, they just do gem stuff for the world, and then they kind of live separate from humans, dipping in occasionally. Yeah,
but like the...
But you can't escape them once one of your people is half human.
But the monsters and stuff like this from the monsters are very kind of like Lovecraft in a sort of way, kind of like like not from our world kind of like
invasion,
trapped on our planet kind of like weird space monster.
Well, and they're like non-organic life as well.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting twist. It's like they destroy stuff, but they don't eat stuff. They're dangerous, but they're not ravenous.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. No, Steven Universe has been fun. It should be coming back sometime in the near future, hopefully.
I hope so. Yeah. They did a preview of an episode at the LA Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And I got it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about Connie and Steven taking a care package to Lars. And they come out of his head, and he's like conquering a gem ship. It's pretty awesome.
Cool. Have you been reading anything fun lately?
No, I've not been able to do any reading lately at all.
Dagnabbit.
I know.
One thing that I have to talk about that I should have talked about an episode or two back is Witches, which is the first annual from Weirdbook. I'll be talking about that in a little bit. So, but first, let's talk about Sarkomand. All right.
Enjoy the show.
Yeah. but it's not what you want to be spending your time with.
Well, not when you're watching Stranger Things.
No, it's generally panned. Like the 7th episode, everyone's like, "Oh, Boo did this," and
Help support the show through Patreon or PayPal or Amazon. Donate a $1 or $5 gift via patreon.com/pgttcm. Donate what you wish at paypal.me/pgttcm or go to the Amazon link at pgttcm.com and shop as you normally would. Just last month, the show made $9 by directing you to Amazon to shop. Ahead stretched double rows of pillars, and the fragments and pedestals of pillars that spoke of a broad and bygone street, and from the urns and basins along the way, he knew it had been a great street of gardens. Far off at its end, the pillars spread to make a vast round plaza, and in that open circle there loomed gigantic under the lurid night clouds a pair of monstrous things. Huge winged lions of diorite they were, with blackness and shadow between them. Full 20 feet they reared their grotesque and unbroken heads, and snarled derisive on the ruins around them. And Carter knew right well what they must be, for legend tells of only one such twain. They were the changeless guardians of the great abyss, these dark ruins where in truth primordial Sarkomand. A ruined city of the Dreamlands, located between the Plateau of Leng and the Saranian Sea, Sarkomand was built and inhabited by the Men of Leng in the distant past, before they were enslaved by the moonbeasts. Its best-known feature is an entrance to the underworld, sometimes used by ghouls and night ghasts, which is flanked by 2 massive lion statues carved of diorite. Adventurers in the Dreamlands who come to Sarkomand should be wary, for moonbeasts and their slaves sail to the ruined port from time to time in their black galleys. They leapt as though they had hooves instead of feet, and seemed to wear a sort of wig or headpiece with small horns. Of other clothing they had none, but most of them were quite furry. Behind they had dwarfish tails, and when they glanced upward he saw the excessive widths of their mouths. Then he knew what they were, and that they did not wear any wigs or headpieces after all, for the cryptic folk of Leng were of one race with the uncomfortable merchants of the black galleys that traded rubies at Dalath Len, those not quite human merchants who are the slaves of the monstrous moonbeasts. H.P. Lovecraft, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. The Men of Leng are the primitive, satyr-like inhabitants of the Plateau of Leng in the Dreamlands. Only very generally human-like, they have horns, hooves, and tails, and very wide mouths. In ancient times, the Men of Leng built the ancient city of Sarkomand as their capital, but long ages ago they were enslaved by the moonbeasts, and now serve as the beasts' go-betweens in interactions with humans. While in this capacity, the Men of Leng wear turbans with double peaks in front to conceal their horns and small shoes to hide their hooves. The Men of Leng, like their moonbeast masters, serve Nyarlathotep. The Necronomicon tells of a corpse-eating cult of Leng, which is associated with the sinister amulet of Leng, but apparently specifies that Leng is to be found in Central Asia. Whether or not this has any connection to the Men of Leng who dwell in the Dreamlands is entirely uncertain. In the coffin lay an amulet of curious and exotic design, which had apparently been worn around the sleeper's neck. It was the oddly conventionalized figure of a crouching winged hound or sphinx with a semi-canine face, and was exquisitely carved in antique oriental fashion from a small piece of green jade. The expression on its features was repellent in the extreme, savoring at once of death, bestiality, and malevolence. Around the base was an inscription of characters which neither St. John nor I could identify, and on the bottom, like a maker's seal, was graven a grotesque and formidable skull. H.P. Lovecraft, The Hound. A jade amulet hinted at in the Necronomicon, bearing the sole symbol of the corpse-eating cult of inaccessible Leng in Central Asia. At least 2 people who possessed this object were torn to pieces by a gigantic supernatural hound-like creature, and a third committed suicide to escape the same fate. The reference to a corpse-eating cult in The Hound suggests that the Amulet of Leng may in some way relate to ghouls.
Weirdbook Annual 1, Witches, edited by Doug Dra. This issue of Weirdbook Annual presents themes of witches. Included in this are Thou Shalt Not Suffer by Nathaniel Hill, No Holds Barred by Adrian Cole, Lane the Hairy Book by Josh Reynolds, Here is Where Your Proud Waves Halt by Erica Rupert, Vicious Circles by Paul Drake Anderson, Assorted Shades of Red by Franklin Searwright, Strange Days Old Yandrisa by John R. Fultz, Fertility Rites by Glenn Owen Barris, The Witch's Heart by Rachel Bolton, Hagface by Andre E. Harwood, Best Friend Becky by Wayne Faust, The Rat in the Rabbit Cage by Ashley Diosis, Two Spells by Neva Bryan, Pulled Over by Paul Spears, The Witch in Skur by L.F. Falconer, Cat and Mouse by Dwayne Precise, Last of the Ashapatu by Paul Lubazensky, Firestorm by Richard A. Durson, The Witch of Pender by John Linwood Grant, The Nora Witch by Branson Jimson, and The Broken Witch by Scott Hutchson, plus poetry by Mauritius Zankerwin, Lucy A. Schneider, David F. Dumont, David F. Dowman, S. L. Edwards, Lori L. Lopez, Frederick J. Meyer, K. A. Opperman, ever hear of the guy, Clay F. Johnson, Bonnie Winslow Christ, Oliver Smith, and Darla Klein. So yeah, I recently had the opportunity to check out the newest issue of Weirdbook. It's actually the Weirdbook Annual #1. I'm very happy. It's got a beautiful, beautiful cover, with beautiful, beautiful art, and throughout, as always, it's filled with just like fun clip art of witches and spookiness. It's a variety of stories about witches. No, not a lot of cosmic horror in this one, folks, but it has various, I guess to be described as various stories of various types of witches throughout the genre of like fantasy horror. And this is basically like how I always say about horror or anthologies or collections. There's a lot of really good ones in here. I haven't ran across anything that's like a dog yet, so it's not a big problem. But what I do like is that there are so many various stories in here that if you don't like something, the next story is going to be great. So I highly recommend Witches, Weirdbook Annual 1. Okay, all right, back to the show. Hey, so what kind of books do you like?
I like a lot of different books, but mostly I like science fiction or stuff that deals with different kinds of... Oh, you want to talk about Audible?
I want to talk about Audible.
Because now that I'm a parent, what I really read, quote unquote, is Audible books. Yeah. I don't have a lot of time to sit around and just read a novel like I used to.
Sure.
And it's nice to be able to do something else while I'm still immersed in a story.
Okay.
Yeah. So I listen to a lot of books, and including Pablo Bacigalupi's collection of short stories called Pump 6. really good. I mentioned it in a previous episode, but it's still really good.
Okay.
The stories in there are wide-ranging and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you know how Audible works then? 'Cause
Yes.
you use Audible.
I do.
Can you explain it to people how Audible works?
Sure. It's very easy. You get the Audible app on your phone, and or go to their website and sign up for a free Audible trial and go to audible.com/pgttcm.
audibletrial/pgttcm.com.
Yes. That'll...
No, Audible... Okay, let me do this again. audibletrial.com/pgttcm.
audibletrial.com/pgttcm. And that'll take you to a place where you can sign up for Audible, and you get to have a free book.
Yep.
A free audiobook, which is awesome, because you can try out any number of books that you've been wanting to listen to. And one of the things I really like about an audiobook is that you can get like a nice, thick, giant, book that's going to take a long time to read. One of my favorite authors, Sherry S. Tepper, I have not found a novel of hers that's less than 2,000 pages long.
And you can pause it wherever you want, right?
You can pause it wherever you want, and you can also take it up on other devices that are in your same network.
And it'll be paused where you paused it?
It'll be paused where you paused it, yes.
Take that, iTunes.
That's right, iTunes. Anyway, so you can get a big, thick book, and you can just listen to it in bits while you're washing the dishes or driving, not on headphones. Don't listen to headphones while you're driving. Sorry. And it'll just, whatever you're listening to, you can just listen to it. It's great.
Hello, Mr. DB Spitzer. Hope you don't feel I'm intruding. I saw your post on Instagram whilst I was in the mid-flow of posting my menagerie of my artistic selfie endeavours, let's say. And I just had to sit down and create this clip for you, this snippet, because when it comes to cosmic horror in literature, I'm a novice. I'm not scholarly. I'm not even the Apprentice catalogue. I'm coming in this from a fresh perspective. I knew that H.P. Lovecraft was around, but I was quite a late reader. I didn't begin reading properly until the age of 11. My first introduction to books was a young fantasy series called The Edge Chronicles by Paul Stewart and Chris Riddell. And the inclusion of Riddell's beautiful, archaic, spidery illustrations, it instigated something where I was like, this exists in literature, there's words with it, and that's where it started. And as I've matured, more as an adult, and more as I've set out to become more of a fully engrossed reader rather than somebody who would read for the sake of it, to pass the time, and not really delve deep into it. And when there was a book to afford such luxuries and avenues, it was usually Stephen King. And Stephen King, a lot of the time, brought up H.P. Lovecraft, so he was in my consciousness. And it wasn't until recently, a couple of years ago, that I discovered, through my introduction to the small indie press, a man by the name of Ramsey Campbell. And that opened up a whole set of doors. Literally, people were throwing the keys to the kingdom at me, saying, go down this corridor, go down this avenue, if you want to backtrack from the the golden brass knob, not the brass knob, the golden door handle, backtrack. And there's other people who are a good segue writers, like Rich Hawkins in particular, a Merseyside I believe based writer, whose first cosmic horror, I believe, full novella length, and his only so far, Black Star, Black Sun, and that was another one that went, wow. The bleakness, the allegory, the connotations, and of course it wasn't just Ramsey Campbell. It wasn't just Ramsey Campbell who spurred me on. It was the epitome of what Lovecraft meant. And what I'm more interested in is what's come after Lovecraft. Lovecraft wasn't respected. What I know, it's only through the years that have passed that he has become notarized. He has defined cosmic horror and weird fiction, and I think the two are interchangeable a lot of the times. But when I discovered Ramsey Campbell, it pushed me more to go, well, this guy's main source of inspiration comes from H.P. Lovecraft. I've got a huge Barnes & Noble's edition of Lovecraft's whole collection, and I went through them and I fell in love with them. But I felt it wasn't tired, it wasn't ruined, because I'd read pieces that were obviously stemmed and, you know, spawned from his creations, that claustrophobia, the xenophobia, the madness, the etherealness, the obsidian darkness that's always threatening to drown your soul, and the tangibility between soul and the textures of Earth's matter, how the concourse of creation and to stem from mind, matter, cosmos, how it all binds into one. And Campbell still for me is up there, but through all this I've discovered other great writers. But what I've also discovered that it's a thing that has become a niche, in particular in the indie publication world, where people will label it as a Cthulhu Mythos based story, an extension of that world, because, you know, anyone can touch it, because H.P. Lovecraft's property is open to everyone, and that's beatific. But it also spurs on a lot of cash grabbing fools who believe that they are good at writing it. And it's become nichey, and I feel that the niche has really stemmed from Bizarro. Bizarro has reduced it to fart gags, Videodrome-esque aesthetics. It loses the allegory, the pretentiousness, because there's a great pretension in cosmology and cosmic horror, because it's big, it's broad, and at the same time very, very subtle and very minimalistic. And whereas there's a lot of niche ones, there's a lot of people within the small press, directly in the small press, which heightens that level of consistency, where it is amazing, where they take what Lovecraft has inspired, or he has formed, and a lot of people deform it, but they make it even much more gloriously vindictive and vile through their own camera lens, their literary lens. And it was Ramsey Campbell, and then there's such people as Lard Barron, John Langan recently with The Fisherman, or Fisherman. There's quite a lot of it in Thomas Ligotti's work, Ligotti's, however you pronounce it. And it's very within the small press world that it is captured, and a lot of magnum opus works stem from this Cthulhu mythos, this big gargantuan ancient creature from above that's burrowed itself in our world, and with burrowing comes its own lore, its own history. It is world building to the extent that I don't think H.P. Lovecraft was aware, nor would he comprehend, because it's gone beyond his lore and it's inspired other laws that interchange, intermingle, aside from all the niche Bizarro-esque ones. And, you know, there are some very good Bizarro-esque Cthulhu-based stories and cosmic horror, but they always fall down into the repetitiveness of the niche, the gag, the promise of a octopi type creature coming up from the abyss. There's more to it to that. It's allegory, it's contemplation. You can invest a lot of repressed emotion into cosmic horror. It is about atmosphere, not guts or gore. It's about character. It's about the inevitability of the desecration of your humanity, and your conflicted emotions associated with these great unimaginable things. Like, it's the comprehension of things. And the thing that I find with Ramsey Campbell, really gets into characters. He gets into the realities of human nature before he gets into the the real, like, you know, sticky, juicy stuff that stays on your hand, and it starts growing on you in an oakish slime, and it starts taking you over. What I'm extorting may sound pretentious, but there is a great pretension in cosmic horror that is a necessity, and I find that from what Lovecraft has created, we have got more, if not greater, that Mr. Lovecraft himself created. And what I find with cosmic horror is beautiful prose, beautiful structure. It's a lot of the time a hard, sluggish, bedraggled adventure. It really makes your synapses pop. I said pot, I meant pop. You see, just talking about it, there's an investment. You have to put there's a lot of food for thought, and when I find it's very difficult to summarise things. It's very difficult to verbalise the extent to how deep it really does. It's scary, and someone who captures this the most is Ramsey Campbell. Yes, there are these creatures, but they're out of sight. There's these worries, there's these real human emotions, this real identity crisis, this real confusion of identity. And his works are subtle beyond belief, or being broad, making something as simple as a graveyard, in his recent book, The Searching Dead, scary again. Graveyards, through the advent of media, pop culture, graveyards are a place to get drunk now, have parties, play with a Ouija board, act like a muppet, have that one friend who has to go over the top and desecrate on a grave. It's just no fun with graveyards, and he brought fear back to graveyards. He brought fear in his novel, The Darkest Part of the Woods, of dense woodland, that weird, you know, the ruins of what could easily have just been a well, the ruins of what could have been slave quarters, you know, and it's the personification of the most perfect cosmic horror comes from Ramsey Campbell himself. Having read an abundance of his short stories, he accesses so much. There's not just blood, guts and gore, no. It'll be redundant and detrimental to the whole reason that he's surveying and in the end extracting and offering to us. But it's never direct, it's never obvious, and a lot of the time it makes you think. Even talking about it on an intellectual level, it leaves you quite, you know, sweaty palmed and quite exasperated. So I just felt like what's come from H.P. Lovecraft has evolved into something bigger and greater. There's scholars that look into this and release books over and over again. Like S.T. Joshi, as controversial as he may be at the moment in the small press world, whose sense of entitlement and enlightenment and place with this has rubbed up some people in the small press in wrong ways, because a lot of the people in the small press, in Joshi's eyes, don't live up to the calibre, and it's his cadence and the way he picks people out and criticises them. A lot of the small press people don't like it, because I feel a lot of the people in the small press feel like they've taken cosmic horror and they've made it what it is. And you know what? I believe that. I do believe that, because you do not find cosmic horror based books in mainstream bookstores. Yes, there may be traces, there may be examples, like in Adam Neville, some in Clive Barker, but it's always a fantastique. It's not in that level of intrigue, it's not on that level of intellectualism, it's not on that level of puzzle piecing. It's just masked in mainstream accessibility fodder. And you know, we read books for various reasons, but I feel cosmic horror should be settled and secular as the thinking man's horror novel, and that's how I view cosmic horror. And I feel that the greatest works come from the indie small press, because there's no censorship, there's an audience there, there's a belief there, there's a strength there. And all this controversy, you know, recently, it's subjective to whoever it is. I believe ST is right in many ways of his criticisms, probably not in the way he handles things, his cadences, his posture, his contradictory way, but I have nothing against the man. I don't know him personally, I don't know his politics. All I know is he writes, or did write, is subjective as usual, good scholarly pieces, and really went into the depth of Lovecraft and what's come after. And another writer who, and completely on another level of understanding is W.H. Pugmire. What collections I've read of his astounds me, and it's just evident. It's the prose, it's the understanding, it's the emotion, it's the connective tissue between you, the source material, what you want to convey. And cosmic horror is here to stay, though it's getting used in the most piss-poor way with some writers. Independent publishers will push for cosmic horror because they know the niche. But a lot of them are doing it right, and I find that the home of cosmic horror is with writers of the calibre of Campbell, Gary Fry. I like to call him Dr. Gary Fry, Professor Gary Fry. Somebody else who not only understands H.P. Lovecraft really well, but also Stephen King, and how much of cosmic horror translates into King's works. And you see, it's just an eye-opener. All these people, like, I'm a novice, I'm so fresh to this perspective of literature. My thing is I'm more well-versed in William S. Burroughs or J.G. Ballard, Stephen King, and to a lot of people it might be surprising, considering that my debut is probably one of the most, out there, pretentious, fucking terribly convoluted, messy experimental pieces they would ever read. Experimentalism, it's my home, it's my love. I love the analysis, I love my hand at it, I love writing it, but my home has always been fantasy and horror. And discovering cosmic horror, it's a home, it's another home, somewhere to shelter. So if I'm not at home with mainstream horror, I can shelter there. I sheltered for a little while with extreme horror, but then the same thing happens, it's fatigue. Cosmic horror is not fatigue, because a lot of the time people are doing it right, and the masters of it out there is Ramsey Campbell. He is the one. He is one of the best. And there's pretty many more that I've not listed, but that's my take on it as a novice into this world. I'm pretty fresh to it, 2 years. And I'm still discovering. I've tasted the best of the best so far, Ramsey Campbell, and I've been backtracking. But I've discovered that I'm backtracking to these other lesser-known writers, but they should really be sharing the shelves, the same shelves, that same room with the golden door, not the brass knob, the golden knob. Oh God, that sounds awful. With Ramsey Campbell, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful genre. It's explosive, and I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening to People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. It's been brought to you by
BunnySlippers.com and
Found Item Clothing.
FoundItemClothing.com.
Yeah. And help support the show, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/PGTTCM, and you can sign up to donate $1 or $5 every month. And every once in a while, I'll throw out a treat for people who, subscribe.
Oh, self-addressed stamped envelope.
Oh, yeah, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to, why don't you try and
message
us on social media and tell us your email address or something like that, and I'll send you an address for a self-addressed stamped envelope, because I don't want just anyone hearing my address.
And we'll send you stickers.
Yeah, we'll send you stickers.
Yeah.
Yep. And anything else you think that we need to talk about? If you want your business, project, whatever, to be heard, why don't you contact us about reading something for the show? We've got some more parts of The Three Imposters by Arthur Machen that we need read. And if you have a short story that you've written, or you have poetry or anything like that, or you want to read some public domain stuff.
Anything in the public domain, read it for us. We will put it on the show if it is good.
Yeah, and
edit it well.
You can edit it, we'll edit it, whatever. And we'll put it on the show and plug your stuff. And yeah. That's how you got to find out about Blastro Podcast and Mark Soloff.
Woohoo.
Yeah. And yeah, so thanks again for listening, and we'll be back in about a week or so with a regular episode. Next time, you'll probably be hearing The Hound.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yep. All right. Thank you so much. And I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving weekend and didn't get too stuffed on turkey.
Stuff that turkey.
Yep. All right. Bye. Oh, also, remember to stay squiggly and keep it weird. I keep forgetting
Peace in the Middle East, war in the central core.
War in the central core of the earth. All right. Have a good one, y'all.
Ciao.
What a great show.
Oh, it's so fun to listen to so much stuff.
Yeah. I hope everyone learns so much. So, thanks again for listening to People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. You can find us at pgttcm.com.
Keep it weird and stay squiggly.
You can find us at pgttcm.podbean.com. We're on Facebook.
Check out our merchandise at Society 6.
Yep. And
new t-shirts. Really cute.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. And we're also on Twitter at pgttcm.com. Pretty much just Instagram, Facebook.
Look, Google PGTTCM, you'll find all the stuff.
Yeah, but definitely subscribe, rate, review.
Yeah, on any of your podcatchers.
Yes. And remember, stay squiggly and keep it weird.
Stay squiggly and keep it weird. You want to do it together?
Yes.
Stay squiggly and keep it weird.
That was weird.
I mean, we have to work on timing. You have to make it a song so that we do it at the same time.
Yeah. People's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos is edited and produced by DB Spitzer.
Hard worker.
Additional vocals by
Seraphy.
Yeah. Music by Kevin MacLeod, and part of the Dark Myths Collective. Check them out at darkmyths.org. All kinds of cool podcasts. And remember that pgttcm.com is brought to you by founditemclothing.com and bunnyslippers.com.
Do you think bunnyslippers.com has hedgehogs too?
I think they might.
And maybe earthworms? Because that would be a cool combo.
I don't know.
These dark ruins were in truth primordial Sarkomand. H.P. Lovecraft, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath.